I'm the barracuda. I got my gun on, yeah, she know I'm
Peggy 18.
I just saw someone in the woods.
Whoever it was, they're gone.
Going to school.
Okay, very good. Who's there?
I questioned her with my own hand.
Eh bien, bonjour à tous les amis. Donc on se retrouve pour le 6e ou 7e épisode sur Dark Pictures Anthology, donc Little Hope. Donc alors, petit résumé de l'épisode précédent, les amis. Donc rappelez-vous, j'avais perdu 3 personnes. Hein, donc voilà, j'ai pas réussi à les sauver. Donc il y avait les 2 jeunes, donc la fille et le garçon, et il y avait le professeur, donc la femme. Donc là il nous reste plus que 2 personnes, donc la personne que j'incarne, le petit jeune, et le professeur. Donc là on va continuer les amis, donc alors attendez, on va regarder ça. Ça je crois qu'on l'avait déjà vu hein, les amis dans le dernier épisode. Ah oui. Ok, donc ça apparemment c'est une fille qu'on n'a pas vue, hein, donc on verra bien. Donc là on s'était retrouvé dans cet endroit. On est toujours pourchassé par les créatures là, voilà. Donc celles qui ont tué, oula, la petite fille, elle est là. Ok. Donc je pense que c'est la gamine hein, qui est la cause de tout. Je pense que c'est la gamine qui est la cause de tout, bien évidemment. Donc on l'a vu, hein, elle est là, elle est là la gamine. Alors attendez, moi j'arrive d'où là? D'accord, j'arrive d'ici. Donc là, on va essayer apparemment on a la poursuite de la gamine justement. Donc on va essayer de voir où est la gamine. Ici on a quelque chose, non? Ah oui, on a quelque chose ici. Oh, oh, oh. Et vraiment il n'y a rien. Si, il y a quelque chose dehors. On l'a bien vu, hein, les amis. Bon, ici, on a quoi? Un dessin, ok. Ok, donc apparemment, c'est une créature avec une gamine. Ah ouais, d'accord, je crois comprendre, en fait. En fait, on dirait qu'ils ont envoûté la gamine. Vous avez vu sur le dessin, en fait? Je sais pas, on dirait qu'ils l'ont fait pour que ça soit le diable ou... Ah ouais, là.
C'est quoi ce bruit?
Ça doit être la petite. Il faut qu'on la trouve. Elle est là.
Tu as l'intention de faire quoi?
Tout va bien. C'est bon.
Hey Bigfoot, tu vas bousiller mon vinyle, fais gaffe.
Méfie-toi de la petite, Andrew.
Oh non.
Protégerez-vous. Par pitié.
C'est pas normal, je rêve.
Je vous fais le serment que notre ville sera bientôt délivrée des griffes du démon. Tous unis, grâce à Dieu, Little Hope triomphera. Je vous l'assure. La cour s'est réunie diligemment, car il le fallait. Si nous voulons enfin nous débarrasser de ce mal qui a infesté Little Hope, l'heure est venue d'agir. La cour accuse Marie de sorcellerie. Qu'en dites-vous, révérend? Les preuves établies par mes investigations sont édifiantes. Marie emploie sa poupée comme un moyen d'invoquer et de servir le diable. Cet enfant nous a tous mystifiés avec son voile d'innocence. Cette poupée a malencontreusement condamné l'innocente Tabata. Mais c'est à Marie qu'elle appartenait, et à elle seule. Elle a laissé sa propre sœur être exécutée sous ses yeux, sans dire un mot.
Ce n'est pas vrai! Menteur!
Voilà que cette jeune furie, cette créature de Satan, a l'audace de m'accuser, moi, l'homme de Dieu, de faire le mal!
Andrew, ces gens sont complètement malades. C'est de l'hystérie collective, de la paranoïa. Il faut qu'on intervienne. Qu'on les interrompe.
Je n'ai jamais eu l'intention de nuire à notre vie. Ou à son peuple. Allez-vous m'aider?
Qu'est-ce que je peux faire? Si je pouvais les arrêter, je le ferais, mais...
Alors qu'elle se trouve au pied du mur, cette
impossible.
fille du démon fait à nouveau appel à l'aide de son maître.
J'en appelle à votre indulgence. Je vous en supplie. Donnez-moi un conseil. Il se passe des choses très étranges ici. Et c'est le moins qu'on puisse dire. Nous ne pouvons nier que Little Hope souffre d'un mal. Que notre ville est en proie aux ténèbres.
Aucune personne ici présente en ce jour ne doute encore que le diable est parmi nous. La mission de cette cour est d'éradiquer le mal, et non de l'encourager. Nous n'avons pas de temps à perdre.
C'est vrai. Marie est derrière tout ça.
Quelle décision prendre? Si je me trompe, une mort pèsera sur ma conscience. Le seul moyen de nous sortir de là, c'est de détruire cette saleté de poupée. Brûlez-la et la poupée doit être incinérée. Peut-être que tout sera fini. C'est à cause d'elle que Marie est ainsi. Elle est sous son emprise. Brûlez cette poupée. Et le démon libérera Marie. Elle retrouvera alors toute son innocence.
Révérend, brûlez la poupée, sur le champ. N'agissons pas en hâte. Cet enfant doit affronter les conséquences de ses actes. Mes décisions ne sont pas à débattre. Veuillez procéder.
If this goes the way it's meant to, there's nothing more you can do now.
Ok, donc la poupée serait la cause de tout apparemment.
Est-ce que c'est fini?
Je ne suis pas convaincu. Si ça se trouve, j'ai encore aggravé les choses.
C'est fini. Allons-y.
Ok, bah là, littéralement, je pouvais rien faire, hein, les amis. Voilà, donc on a perdu le professeur, bah, il ne reste plus qu'une seule personne maintenant.
Je pensais bien vous voir ici. On en a traversé des épreuves. On a traversé de vraies épreuves ces dernières années. Il n'y a plus que des fantômes maintenant. Et si j'étais vous, je partirais très loin. On devient fou ici. Vous pouvez me croire sur parole. Suivez cette route, vous trouverez un resto avec un téléphone. Ne revenez pas. Il n'y a plus rien à faire ici.
Le trafic est dévié vers Little Hope. Est-ce que ça va? Vous avez l'air un peu perdu.
Ouais, ça va. Il faut juste que je conduise ces gens là où ils vont.
Mais un petit détour ne devrait pas trop les déranger.
Vous pouvez pas tous la fermer? C'est pas comme ça qu'on trouvera de l'aide, ou qu'on sortira d'ici. Bonsoir. Vous allez bien? Excusez-moi. Nous cherchons le chauffeur de notre bus.
Hein?
Vous l'avez vu?
Ouais, très marrant. Vous avez besoin de remontant.
Merci, mais ça ira. J'essaie de rester lucide.
Qu'est-ce que vous fabriquez là-dedans?
Fichez le camp!
Pas avant de vous avoir vu en face. Alors ouvrez-moi! Hé!
Je crois pas qu'ils comprennent qu'on court un grave danger.
Voilà, c'est terminé. Fini. Pour l'instant, du moins. Vous pouvez toujours réessayer, tenter de faire différemment. C'est là le problème des démons. Si vous ne les faites pas taire, ils vous hanteront à jamais. Voilà une bien triste fin. Ou peut-être pas. Tout dépend de ce qui vous plaît, au fond. Et enfin, vous avez fini par le trouver. Le chauffeur de bus. Peut-être va-t-il pouvoir tourner la page à présent. Nous nous reverrons peut-être dans le sud Pacifique, ou le désert d'Arabie, ou en d'autres lieux. Mais nous nous reverrons. Au moins encore une fois.
Ok, ok. Donc alors, donc ce que j'ai compris apparemment de l'histoire, donc en fait faut croire qu'on a incarné le chauffeur de bus depuis le début alors. Donc en fait c'était tout dans ta tête là, au chauffeur de bus. D'après ce que j'ai compris. Hein. Donc voilà, donc ben ouais, peut-être que l'histoire aurait été plus longue si j'aurais sauvé les 3 personnes qui sont mortes, ou alors bah, l'histoire se termine comme ça, je sais pas. Peut-être qu'en finissant avec tous les persos, peut-être que l'aventure serait plus longue, peut-être, je sais pas les amis. Donc voilà, ben, en tous les cas, on arrive à la fin de Dark Pictures Anthology Little Hope. Donc c'est une histoire que j'ai vraiment adorée. Très beau jeu, beaucoup d'horreur, beaucoup de comment bah, de peur, hein, parce que bon, c'est vrai que en fait c'est un jeu, vous voyez, il se base sur les choix, comme je vous ai dit au début. Donc en fait voilà, c'est vrai que bon après, on peut sauver tout le monde, hein, on peut. Hein. Si on débrouille bien, normalement on devrait pouvoir. Donc je ne vais pas la refaire, ou alors si je la refais, l'aventure ce sera hors live bien sûr, hors vidéo je veux dire. Mais voilà, donc bah je sais pas les amis. En fait l'histoire, donc apparemment ben c'était le chauffeur de bus. La fameuse poupée, donc la poupée qu'on a brûlée à la fin. Donc apparemment c'était tout dans la tête du chauffeur de bus alors, d'après ce que j'ai compris hein, les amis. Donc voilà. Donc ben croyez pas qu'on allait arriver à la fin aussi vite. Je croyais qu'il allait avoir bah, que ça allait continuer en fait. Donc on a vu que le professeur ben, s'est fait tuer hein, par une créature. Donc il restait plus que le petit jeune. Donc je ne sais pas si on trouve tout le monde comment la fin serait. Est-ce que ce serait plus long? Est-ce que ce serait une plus belle fin? Je ne sais pas en fait. Je ne sais pas les amis. Donc voilà. Donc ben voilà. Donc j'essaierai de retrouver une autre aventure à faire, hein, bien évidemment les amis. J'essaierai de refaire une autre aventure, donc je ne sais pas quoi encore. Donc j'espère que cette petite aventure sur Dark Pictures Anthology Little Hope vous aura plu pour les fans d'horreur. Donc voilà, donc j'espère que ça vous aura plu les amis. Donc je vous laisse sur ce générique de fin et je vous dis à bientôt pour une nouvelle aventure. Allez, au revoir les amis.
Absolutely not.
We'll start believing. We are under attack by... I don't know what. You wouldn't believe me even if I tried. Hell, I don't believe it and I was there.
In Sumerian myth, they say the souls of the dead went deep underground to the House of Ashes, where they lived on dust, plagued by the demons of the underworld.
Happened?
The bus crashed. We're okay though, just shaken up.
I don't remember being in any crash.
Well, here we are on set of Little Hope, part of the Dark Pictures anthology. Tell me about the characters you play in the game.
Yeah, very exciting. I play Andrew, who is a student on this trip to the town of Little Hope.
You know this place?
No. I mean, I don't think so.
I also play Anthony and I play Abraham, all existing at different time periods in different places.
Is it tough to balance it all and to kind of jump back between these characters as you go through it?
A little bit. I've had a lot of help along the way, and we've been able to, for the most part, separate the three different guys. We have an amazing accent coach on set at all times, so she keeps me in check and puts me on the right part of the map when I stray too far.
Only the devil could create a demon who so resembles me.
We do look alike, which I agree is pretty damn weird.
How tough is it for you to separate that and balance it all?
Yeah, it's interesting. Andrew, being the character that I embody for most of the time, was a little bit easier for me. I related to him naturally. He's this socially awkward, depressed student, and I certainly as a student was pretty socially awkward and repressed, so I could relate to him a great deal.
You seem uncomfortable around kids your own age.
This trip is actually my first time away from home.
Oh, you picked a real beauty.
Yeah, well, if I ever make it back, I'll sure have something to talk about.
The other character, Anthony, is slightly more immature, comes from a big family. I can also relate to that. And dealing with the family dynamic and playing that sibling friction was also something that I think a lot of people can relate to. And that was fun, another sort of element of the challenge, which I really enjoyed. And then there's Abraham, is the third character that I'm responsible for.
We have to stop this. The only madness is right here in this court.
And the nice thing that exists in all three of them is this motivation to do good, to do right. And I think all three characters I really had admiration for. They seem to be like morally adept, and it's important to respect, I think, the characters that you play, or at least identify something within them that you respect, and I respected all three of the guys that I played.
I know what must be done here.
And they're all so very different, and even the level of the accents change between them. Is that something that's challenging to navigate?
Yeah, that's been really fun for me. It's been, when playing Andrew, I've been doing a relatively neutral American accent, but we sort of base most of the action in New England, so it does lean towards the East Coast, and it doesn't take on too strong of a characterization in either direction. The vocal work for Anthony is similar to that, but because Anthony lives within the 1970s, there's been a little bit of tweaking to the accent in order to accommodate the times. And then Abraham's an entirely different accent. It's been a bit of guesswork as far as constructing that accent, because there's no recordings of what people sounded like at that time. But I suppose the closest thing to it we imagine is a kind of Northern English accent. And my dad's from Yorkshire, so I've basically been ripping off what my dad sounded like when he was younger.
She talked in this really weird accent. Was that even American?
And also with the process itself is a huge, like a learning curve, like you say, with the performance capture. What's the process been like for you? Have you been able to adapt? Do you feel at home now wearing the helmet and
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it presents a whole host of challenges. It can get a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
After a while, it can get a little uncomfortable. You never forget the first time you go for a wee wearing that headset, thinking, am I on some sort of screen somewhere in a studio right now? Can people see me weeing? But you soon get used to the headset and the pack that you're wearing. And I think the best thing you can do is try and remove that from the equation entirely and just make it about looking at the person opposite you. Some of the more physical stuff is challenging because if you do want to move around and you do want to add a physical performance to whatever facial, emotional things that are being captured, you have to be careful that the sound isn't being compromised because of your movements. But you know, in lots of ways, it's been quite freeing too. We move at a great pace. There's little repetition over the same thing. There's lots of variation, but little repetition really. And we have an opportunity to move freely about the space pretty much. We're not confined to marks and we don't have to relight every single moment. It's go, go, go. It's been 100 miles per hour and I've loved the intensity of it. It's been great.
But we're looking for our bus driver.
What?
Have you seen him?
Yeah, that's funny. What's up with the fog outside? It's pretty weird.
Sure is a thick one tonight.
Actually, it's so thick it's stopping us from leaving.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
You're, trapped here too, then?
I'm good. It's a whole different pace, I feel, than what you normally when you're setting up a scene and you shoot front to back, and then now it's kind of like you're just jumping in and you're just like stop, start, stop, start. It must be kind of refreshing in a way.
100%, yeah. You can start in the morning and by lunch you've died and come back to life 4 or 5 times, whereas on a film set you would have had to shoot for several weeks to get that material. So you do blast through a ton of content.
Run! Get the hell out of there! Look out!
Yeah, it's gonna be really cool to see yourself in a video game. It's gonna be an incredible experience too. And then now your friends and family members can like play you in a game. That must be a whole weird feeling.
Yeah, that is really weird. It's strange enough seeing my face on screen in anything, but you're really mad and exciting, I guess, to think about being in a video game. I guess that's like a little kid's dream in lots of ways, so I feel very lucky.
It's incredible. And your friends are gonna call you, but like, I killed you.
Yeah, I killed you 3 times. They're like, good to speak to you too, bud. Yeah, thanks for the call.
Would you confront your fears or would you run away?
I want to say confront my fears. After this experience, I would confront my fears. Maybe previously I would have run away.
What kind of place is this?
It's one of those things where what you think you'll do is different than what you probably actually do.
In the moment, yeah, 100%.
Oh, I would confront my fears and then you're gone.
Gone. Yeah.
And lastly, would you explore on your own or in a group?
In a group, I'd have to. One of the best things about this experience has just been the camaraderie that's developed amongst the cast, and over a short period of time shooting at this intensity, it's bonded us together really quickly, and I've loved being part of the team. A group of us in one room on this crazy journey together, so it's all about exploring as a team.
I'm just gonna say it. This is exactly what goes down in horror movies.
Well, plus than anything in the horror genre, we know what happens when you go off on your own, right?
100%. Don't do it.
They still do it.
And they still do it.
Let's go check out that room over there.
No, don't go check out that room.
Nope.
Don't go check out.
Or bring someone with you.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. There you go.
All right, Will.
Tanner, thanks
a lot. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Cheers.
I just saw someone in the woods. Okay, very good. We're freaked. Who's there?
Whoever you are, this isn't funny at all.
The demons are an integral part of the story of Little Hope. It's the crux of a lot of the things that happen, and that informs a large part of what we're doing. The starting point for each of the demons was the style of execution. They're based on a character that gets killed. That then informs how the character behaves, how it moves, how it sounds, and those are all brought together to give us that convincing, terrifying demon.
In order to make convincing demons, you need to ground them in nature. So what we do is we use our understanding of anatomy and our deep understanding of biomechanics and the principles of the way things move and the way things actuate, and we apply this to the demon design. We obviously start with the production design. The production design is a drowned demon. What we need to do then is look for extra reference. We have to look at stuff like autopsies. We'd look at what happens to the skin when it gets exposed to water for a long time. We have to look at creatures from underwater. We look at various types of fish. Loads of images and real-world reference helps, although slightly gruesome.
This particular demon we're looking at is the one that's been hung. We didn't want to show the whole of this character, and right from the beginning we said, let's focus on the areas which are the most terrifying. And so the overall silhouette of the character was to be like this twisted rope. Her limbs had coiled, and so we were exaggerating the metaphor of this hanging. 1,000 years of being trailed along the ground, it had worn away her feet, the bones being worn down, the nails being broken off. She'd been in pain for a long time. The most key of all of the elements was the face and how we framed that, and that was that broken, twisted neck, one eye remaining, a tear coming out because it's that last remains of her soul. The noose was digging into her neck, and her tongue was actually so bloated and grown that that actually became a feature for us in the game, that tongue actually becomes a grapple to get hold of some of the characters.
To animate a demon, we would start with looking at how they walk or move forward. Some of them are dragging themselves, and then also how they would attack their victims, just flesh out the layout and the choreography of it. Mocap is a big help. Obviously, it's a lot faster than keyframing from scratch. So we decided to use it as a base for some of them, and then we would layer on top of that all the characteristics that bring them to life, even though they're dead.
The Crush Demon in particular was difficult to work with because we weren't able to use motion capture footage, so that is going to be completely hand animated. So that meant we were really starting from scratch. All the other demons, we did use actors' footage, so we have a lot of actors with spikes tied to them, limping across the scene.
Let's get the fuck out of here!
On the Broke Demon, we asked the actor to use various props to try and achieve the sort of movement that we wanted. And I think he did a great job. It was really successful. We've had to, again, add on to that to help with the weight and the believability.
We take our initial cues for the sound of the demons from the visuals, and they look fantastic. But then we have to take the sound of the demons beyond the visuals to give them a really strong otherworldly presence. We need each of the demons to be individually recognizable whilst maintaining that uncomfortable unfamiliarity for the player. So at distance you might hear the chains clanking or the vocal screams. But when you get close up to the demons, you hear lots of detail, the cracking of skin, the creak of the chains, the breaths or the sound of the icky vomit. We really want the player to feel the breath through the sound of the demon on their face.
Angela, no!
When we're thinking about the camera work for the demons, one thing that was really at the forefront of my mind was trying not to show too much, trying not to lose all restraint, and I think that's a really easy trap to fall into with CG in general, and especially with games that you've got all these monsters that you've built and you've spent a lot of time working on, and it's really easy just to go straight to putting everything on screen. But thinking back to some classic horrors, classic monster movies, a lot of times there the directors had to use a lot of restraint and just show little bits and pieces because they didn't have that kind of budget or that kind of effect to really make it convincing. And there's something about that I really like that I wanted to bring back to Little Hope. So when I was directing the camera team, I asked them to show little bits, little glimpses, a clawed hand here, a shadow on the wall there, the chains rattling, whatever the key characteristics were of that demon. The interesting thing with that is that I think sometimes your imagination as a viewer fills in the blanks in a far more terrifying way than we really could. So we tried to build up that suspense, working up to this big reveal where you finally see full on in the light this thing that's been hunting you down in all its gross, horrific glory. With the demon scenes, lighting definitely had a key part to play as well. It had to work complementary to what we wanted to do with the cameras, but also there's some specific things you can do with lighting that really lent itself to this task. So one of the big ones was the use of silhouettes. The demons have really interesting form and really interesting shapes. They're very unusual, you know, these humanoid creatures all distorted, and we wanted to use that without revealing too much. So quite often we tried to use backlighting, or the fog that's present all through Little Hope is a really useful tool for silhouettes, as you can have this nice separation with a brighter background and then have the creature dark in the foreground. It was a nice way to make them feel even more gross than they really were.
The Little Hope narrative is extremely multi-layered, and the demons not only represent the tortured souls of the characters, but they also represent the psychological trauma that humans can obtain through witnessing traumatic events. So when the game opens in the prologue and the main character is witnessing these traumatic events, we underscore this with really strong male Gregorian choir, which we use later in the game when the demons are attacking to really strengthen and reference that psychological trauma with the tormented souls of the characters.
Run! Now! The broken demon's the most terrifying because of the way it moves. It's really unsettling because you can't anticipate where it's going to go next. All the limbs are breaking and it's all moving in a really erratic way. So if you were to try and escape from it, you wouldn't know where to go because it might go there or it might go over here. So that's the most terrifying in terms of unpredictability, I suppose, and having a deep effect on your psyche.
Interestingly, when you work at Supermassive, you get immune to horror. That's one thing I've definitely noticed. The powers of horror somehow get lost to me every time I'm watching a horror movie. I don't get so scared anymore just because I see this stuff every day. But doing those demon scenes, I must admit, even watching them back as they were work in progress, it was always like fairly distressing and fairly horrific. So hopefully some of that comes across in the experience for the player too.